Joining me to have all that chat is Philip Ingram, former Senior Military Intelligence Officer. Good morning to you.
Good morning. There's clearly nothing to talk about.
No, I mean, Sarah, I haven't even got to the Chagos Islands. We haven't even got... I mean, there's so much more. Yeah. I can't deep sigh at you because there's a story about an employment tribunal that ruled that if you're deep sighing at a colleague or an employee, that could be discriminatory.
Yes.
Even if that's the only person you're deep sighing at. I'm thinking if you're deep sighing at someone, I mean...
HR, what are we going to do about HR today?
Let's deep sigh at that. Look, let's talk about this immigration. What do you make of this? Are we cheering at these net migration figures coming down or not?
Well, you use the analogy of congratulating someone from getting from 25 stone to 18 stone. The reality is it's 25 stone and they've gone up to 30 stone and you're congratulating them for getting back to 26 stone.
Okay, yeah.
So, no, it's not good. You know, as you said and as Tony Smith said, you know, a city the size of Bristol coming in every year, there is something. This is politically controlled. Those are the legal. These are the legals. Legal migrants, but they also wrap the numbers of the illegal migrants up into it as well to try and hide those. And I think there's so much more needs to be done, and we're seeing very little initiative out of this government on the legal migration. These statistics have come from what the previous government was starting to do.
Exactly, and again, the numbers went up massively they went up massively under Tony Blair, then they exploded under the Tories. They exploded even more after Brexit, as we were limiting EU migration, but we kept all the people who were already here, and then a massive explosion of people from India, Pakistan, Nigeria and elsewhere under Boris Johnson. A huge number of people came there, and then Rishi Sunak brought that down. So look, anything that's happened here has got nothing whatsoever to do with Labour government. This is all stuff that happened before they came into office. But even the Tories are saying, well, you know, we did act, but it was too little, too late. But again, my reasoning, but why didn't you act? We were told for years, immigration was a benefit to the country economically. I've argued for years that it's not. I could see quite clearly it wasn't. The stats now are very, very clear that it absolutely has not been. The vast majority of people who come to this country are not beneficiaries. We're not the beneficiaries of them. Yet if you've got some French or American who turns up, or an Indian, billionaire, you turn up, you create jobs, you're paying loads of tax. Absolutely, we're happy to have some of those people. Thank you very much. But actually, your average, arrival from Romania or Bangladesh, no, funnily enough, those people with low skills, low educational qualifications, working in low-paid jobs are not going to be a net benefit to us. I mean, I don't know why everyone's surprised by that.
We don't have a net contribution test, which should be the first test that's in there. Contribution financially, contribution culturally as well.
They say they're bringing that all in, but I simply don't believe that they are.
And we go back to the 50s and 60s and we look at that. My ex-father-in-law came from India. Whenever he came to this country, he was more British than anyone else. He even changed religion and came in. He still kept his Indian culture that's going through, but he married a British woman. In the 1950s, that is unheard of. And you find, if you look back in society, you look at the Windrush generation that came off the boats. People coming off wearing their hats in suits, ties, and trying to integrate within society.
Absolutely.
There was prejudices because of skin colour, but people tried to integrate. We're now getting zero integration and people being encouraged to live in what are becoming, silos. In many cases, silos and ghettos.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that has to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I don't even know what we start doing about the people who are already here who haven't integrated, and a huge number don't speak English, etc. It's a massive issue, isn't it? But again, with so many people coming to this country, and again, a very interesting point that Tony Smith made, and he's the former head of UK Border Control. I mean, so the man knows what he's talking about. Okay, he's at 30 years the Home Office he worked. He pointed out that even when the Home Office is getting a load of pressure on this, and you've got to do something about it, cut the numbers, and the number 10 Downing Street's getting it. The Treasury, the Department of Health, Treasury wants to bring more people in because it makes the figures look better because they're getting pressure from business, aren't they? Saying we'd like lots of low wage people to come in and do the jobs that we can't get Brits to do. Department of Health, they want care work, nurses, and there's an agricultural sector want workers. Education department sector, they want students who pay a large sum of money. There's all these different pressures saying bring these people in, and of course you've got the middle classes who go, oh well, we shouldn't have borders at all, and isn't immigration wonderful? We've got a lovely deli at the corner of the road, and my cleaner's Romanian, and my builders are from wherever. I mean, they're living in a completely different universe. These people.
Oh, very much so. And this is where the government, these different departments, it's easy for them to get trained nurses from overseas or care workers that are going to work for below minimum wage in some places from overseas and all the rest of it, instead of fixing the problem of getting the right people in the UK.
Welfare. If you're not going to fix our welfare system, you're going to have to carry on importing people. Simple as that.
We could solve the nursing crisis overnight by removing tuition fees for people who want to go into nursing
and
or medical degrees.
And raising the cap on the number of people who can... We don't need to import a single doctor. We have enough young people who want to actually be doctors and who've got 3 grade AA levels in science subjects who should be allowed to train as doctors.
And if you turn around and took their tuition fees away and gave them a grant for living, you would find an awful lot more people who want to go and be doctors.
And again, and the reason why nurses are that particular case is because they actually have to work. A lot of their training involves them working.
Correct.
But they're working for free in hospitals, and that's the key. So they can't, unlike other students, go and work as a waiter or go and work in a warehouse or a shop because they have to do the shifts in hospitals. So they are bigger debts. So they are bigger, and they're particularly penalised. Again, bit joined up thinking, bit of reality checking.
We'll take over.
Seriously, come the revolution. Emperor and Empress. You know it makes sense, people. You know it makes sense. I'd throw in Sam Armstrong as well. I've got to be honest with you. I really would.
We need a good team.
He'd
get a good team.
Totally. Sam Armstrong would definitely be our. Dominic Cummings.
Who will be in our government? We'll get people to tell us.
Mike Graham, obviously. I don't know what I'd put him in charge of.
Communications.
That would be so.
Government communications.
Those briefings would be hilarious. At least we found a lighter note on a grim news day, haven't we? I want to hear from you though. What I mean? Okay, question to everybody, but question to you, Philip. What should net migration figures be?
It's very difficult to put a number on it because there are so many moving factors. We should try and have it as zero, and in fact we should.
Should we?
We should attempt to that
for now,
and see if it's possible. And then you look at the number of people who are not integrating into society and passing what would be a net contribution test, and therefore it should go below zero. We should start to move people out of the country who are not adding value to the country.
I am so up for this. I mean, they need to deport illegal migrants. I mean, the illegal people who've arrived, again, huge number of people who've arrived here on work or student or tourist visas who've just not gone home. Again, you've got a month. Sod off. Get out. You've got a month. That's it. And after that, we're going to get very, very nasty. I'm serious. You'd have a load of people like the Guardian, the BBC, go, they've got children. I don't care. They're not British. They're not legally allowed to be here. Get the hell out. Now, that apparently would be far right and terrible. I don't have a right to just go and live in any sodding country I want without the right documentation.
Well, and without contributing. You can't go and work in Australia unless you've got a visa that is something that means that you're going to contribute. You can't do this in the States.
They're very ruthless,
you can't do the same across the
absolutely.
board.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Get in touch, 0344 499 1000. Let's also talk about the other big news in terms of British politics. David Gauke's sentencing review. Most prisoners, basically, for good behaviour, would serve just a third of their sentence, and a third, we're told, being closely supervised in the community. What a load of nonsense that is. And then another third sort of on free licence. But basically it had to have good behaviour. This is the thing, they're basically serving only a half now, sometimes only 40% now. I don't know why we even bother sending anyone to prison at this time, it's absurd. But also the talk about dealing with particular sex criminals, paedophiles, rapists, and some of them moving toward, I mean, some actually already are chemically castrated, but a tiny majority. This is used actually in other countries on a more widespread basis, but chemically castrating some of these people in return for their freedom. So if they don't have, we're not talking about cutting off the meat and two veg, we're talking about taking drugs, being forced to take drugs which basically stop you having those sexual urges. But apparently these drugs are really, I mean, very unpleasant for people. I'm not saying I want paedophiles to have a pleasant life. I mean, I'm not defending that. But whether or not this is going to be viable as a policy, because I think most of us just think, I think I'd rather you kept them behind bars.
Well, I think,
call me old-fashioned.
I think most of the studies say that you cannot stop a paedophile being a paedophile, and chemically you're then
you're either attracted to children or you're not.
You're then just taking a risk, and therefore I don't think anyone who's convicted of a paedophile-related crime should be allowed out at all. In fact,
we should put more of them behind bars. And the number of paedophiles, they've got 10,000 images of men raping children, and they're not even going behind bars. You don't think those people are a threat? I mean, my thing is, I always want to say to those judges, if you don't think they're a threat, let them babysit your kids or grandkids.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, honestly, you don't think they're a threat, but you're happy to put them back on the streets with everyone else.
Yeah, but if they sent a tweet out, then they would.
Well, they shouldn't. If they don't tweet about it, don't tweet about it, because then we'll have to put you behind bars. But that is where we are, isn't it?
It is. It's shocking.
Do you think it's interesting that Keir Starmer, though, asked David Gauke, a former Tory Justice Secretary? I get on well with the guy. He could be in the Lib Dems. He's a Lib Dem to all intents and purposes, isn't he, David Gauke? Very nice man. Been on the show many times. But basically getting him to do the sentencing review, giving him a bit of cover. There's this whole thing that everyone does now. Tories hire a Labour person, Labour hire a Tory person, and they think it all looks really good. What most of us look at is going, you're the uni party. You agree on everything. That's why, by the way, you're both down in the polls.
Well, I think Gawker proves that one thing the Tories were saying, that they're a broad church. You know, if he can appeal to Lib Dems, you think he's that, and Labour coming in. Some of what he's going through is quite sensible, but it's a shame it wasn't done properly early in the Tory government. You know, looking at different models around the world to see what is good, and you know, they let people out at a third of their sentence. In the United States, in Texas, where it comes from, is based on people going through rehabilitation, behaving well, proving that they are going to be good members of the community again before they're allowed out. It's not blanket. It's not everyone out at once.
That should be a given. I mean, again, my thing is, you serve your sentence if you behave well, and you serve more if you behave badly. I love that the solution to we haven't got enough prison places is put fewer people behind bars. There's this nonsense claim that community sentences have a lower reoffending rate. That's because by the time someone goes to prison, unless they've written a hurty tweet, by the time someone goes to prison, the odds are they've committed so many offences. Of course, they're going to carry on committing offences when they come out. You think someone who's committed on average 10 or 20 shoplifting offences, they've been convicted for. So I mean, who are we kidding? I mean, they've committed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, but they haven't been even arrested for. When they come out of prison, you think they're not going to carry on shoplifting? Of course they are. I mean, they've only got the community sentence for the first few. So it defies belief. But the answer is, build more prisons. We're constantly told we imprison more people than any other Western nation. We have a higher offending rate than any other Western nation. Western European nation. America is off the scale in terms of theirs. I think the American justice system is absolutely terrifying, I have to say. I don't think it is a justice system in any meaningful sense anymore. But we have a higher rate of offending, and I think part of that is we've got breakdown of the family. We've had a general breakdown of trust and of law and order, and we've had that thing where basically the odds of you getting caught are so low that people just think they can commit crimes willy-nilly, and I think that's the issue we need to tackle.
It is, but before we start spending more taxpayers' money building prison places, and we do need an awful lot more prison places, we should be doing everything we can to reduce the amount of taxpayers' money that's being used to keep people in prison that we could send elsewhere. So the 10,000 foreign prisoners should automatically be deported.
But only if they're serving their sentence elsewhere.
Yes, but
the main thing is we shouldn't import these people in the first place. These people didn't, as I mentioned earlier, these people didn't know. Most of the people who've committed these crimes, if you're behind bars as a foreign national in our country, the odds that you just turned up and you were a completely law-abiding normal person beforehand, what a load of rubbish.
But there's a number of them that are have got foreign passports. They've never taken up British citizenship. They've left in this. They've lived in this country for most of their lives, and they use that as their human rights excuse to stay because they don't like the chicken nuggets that go elsewhere and all the rest of it. So they should just automatically be deported. It's someone else's
really
problem.
Simple. But also, if we haven't got any money to build new prisons and deal with all this stuff, why have we got $9 billion to give the Mauritians to hand over the Chagos Islands, which we own? I've never understood. This is like literally, I've got a car, I'd like to give you my car, and then I'm going to pay you to take my car away. This is genuinely insane. Interestingly, there was supposed to be this virtual signing ceremony with Keir Starmer, the Mauritian Prime Minister, today. There was a High Court ruling in the early hours of this morning, a challenge to that, basically, until there was a formal review of this by the courts. This is brought by a Chagosian, that basically this cannot go ahead. And there's a High Court injunction now preventing the Prime Minister from giving away British sovereign territory.
Yes, I know the photographer that was going off to photograph the virtual signing ceremony, and he put out on Twitter this morning to say that he was mostly going off to photograph VIP signing documents today, and then an hour later he had to say, it's been postponed.
Turns out I'm not. Just finally, I do want to talk just a little bit more about the two Israeli embassy staff in the US shot dead in Washington DC outside the capital Jewish museum. There's a reason why they were targeted, because they were Jewish. This man who, a gunman who shot them dead in cold blood, he was immediately arrested. He actually ran into the museum. People were comforting him, thinking he'd been a victim. People were carrying in the museum. He shouted, "Free, free Palestine," as he was arrested. The couple who were killed, Yaron Lisinski and Sarah Milgram, both staff at the Israeli embassy in the US, but also both a young couple who were a couple, romantically linked, and he'd already bought a ring. He was going to propose to her. They'd planned to go to Israel they were going to formally get engaged. Absolutely tragic. But as we were saying with a representative of the Israeli embassy here, this is what globalised the Intifada means. When you have the British and American media and everyone just telling everybody that Israel is the baddie, Israel the baby killers and a genocidist. I mean, this is and the Palestinians are these uniquely hurt people. This is what happens.
I am disgusted at the amount of disinformation that's coming out of mainstream media, out of influencers, and the way people are taking to the streets to then push that out further, because all of them who are calling for attacks on Israel and everything else have got blood on their hands today.
Yeah.
And they will try and justify it and say, but that's nothing compared to the blood that Israel's got. You can't
it's
justify
absolute
this.
nonsense.
It's complete nonsense.
And again, I hold the BBC partly responsible,
Yes,
because they are a trusted news source around the world, and they are broadcasting absolutely blatant pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel propaganda. It is, lies.
Yeah.
War reporters, presenters on the shows are pushing a narrative where this is uniquely terrible war and there are uniquely, war crimes being committed by Israel. This is abject nonsense. It's provable. It's been debunked again and again. By the way, the Prime Minister Keir Starmer has just put out a tweet about that attack on the Israeli embassy staff, saying, "I thoroughly condemn the anti-Semitic attack outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. Anti-Semitism is an evil we must stamp out wherever it appears. My thoughts with their colleagues, family and loved ones. And as always, I stand in solidarity with the Jewish community." It's all very well, but he stood basically to try and elect Jeremy Corbyn, who I do believe, I don't know how many people who you can hang around with who are anti-Semitic without you being anti-Semitic yourself. I'm really sorry. He was a danger to this country. The hard left, absolutely, and utterly defiled by anti-Semitism right now. And Keir Starmer, when he was Shadow Brexit Secretary, spoke out not once. Not once. Sorry, mate. It's not good enough.